Good evening and welcome. You're watching WION News. I'm Pratyush Dubey. This is a very special broadcast where we are discussing, in fact, an attack that was carried out by Maoist terrorists in Chhattisgarh Sukma. In fact, it was the deadliest ambush by Maoists since April 2010. 26 personnel of the Central Reserve Police Force died and 6 were injured in Chhattisgarh. The attack, which occurred this afternoon, was well planned. It started around 1 p.m. when men from the 74th Battalion of the CRPF Central Reserve Police Force were sanitizing the area for a group of construction workers building a road. Now, according to the survivors, the CRPF Jawans were set upon by nearly 300 Maoists, most of whom were women and were wearing black military-type uniforms. Now, they carried automatic weapons, AK-47, even insas rifles. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today tweeted saying that giving his condolences to the families of those who were martyred and saying that the attack on the CRPF personnel was cowardly and deplorable. He also went on to say that the government was monitoring the situation closely. Cobra teams, which are special strike teams of the CRPF, have been called in. A search operation is also underway. Now, the state's DIG and Bastar Inspector General of Police both are going to Sukma right now to take stock of the situation. Meanwhile, the Home Secretary has called for a meeting with the Additional Secretary and Joint Secretary to discuss the attack.
जबरदस्त हुआ है। मैंने खुद 2-3 नक्सलियों को गोली मारा चेस्ट में। बाकी मैं जो हमारे जवान घायल हुए उनको उठा के मैं अपने कंधे पे मोबाइल बंकर में डाल के सीधा बेस हॉस्पिटल बेस कैंप में लेके सीधा हेलीकॉप्टर में उठा के लेके आए इधर। मेरे भी चोट लगी हुई कमर में और घुटने में। मशीन गन मेरे कमर में लग गया, बहुत ज्यादा दर्द हो रहा मेरे में।
फायर कर रहे और एडवांस कर रहे थे तो उनका ज़्यादा तो तादाद आदमी थे, घेरने का चक्कर में थे, इसलिए हम लोग फायर कर रहे और एडवांस कर रहे थे। तो उसके बाद जैसे जैसे चोट लगा है तो उनको थोड़ा हमारे जैसे चोट लगा है तो बोल रहा है हमको जाने के लिए, बाकी फायर कर रहे हैं।
Well, Prakash Singh, Padam Shri, former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, and the Assam Police are joining me. Also with me is Raghavendra Rao, my colleague, who will be joining us with all the updates. But before that, some reactions were coming in throughout the day. Once the incident happened at 1 p.m. and what the government had to say in this matter is very pertinent. So listen to some of those reactions.
घटना बड़ी है, बहुत ही दुखद है, बहुत ही दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है और इसे मैं एक चुनौती भी मानता हूँ। नए विकास कार्यों में वो बाधा पैदा कर रहे हैं नक्सली, इसमें कहीं दो मत नहीं है। बहुत ही विडंबना है कि हमारी सरकार, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जिन गरीबों तक हर सुविधाएं पहुंचाना चाहते हैं, उन सुविधाओं से उन गरीबों को वंचित करने की यह कोशिश है माओवादियों की।
It is a big tragedy. It's a setback on the forces, but let the report come. We won't be able to react right now as the report is coming. Let the detailed report comes, then the ministry will inform.
In democracy, ballot is more powerful than bullet. Stringent action will be taken to bring the culprit to justice. The centre, of course, will extend all support to the state. My condolences to the bereaved families.
Well, let me first go across to Raghavendra. Raghavendra, what's the latest? We heard last that 24 soldiers were martyred, but there were several who were injured, who were critical, who were being treated in hospitals in Raipur. What's the update from the ground in Sukma?
Well, yes, Pratyush, the latest update is that the number of casualty has already risen. Now we have confirmation that as many as 26 CRPF personnel have been martyred in this attack, and the number of injured continues to be there. 4 to 6 people are still injured, but their condition also is said to be very, very serious. They have received grievous injuries, and it will be it'll be some time before there is some clarity on their medical condition. But the sources as of now are telling us that they continue to battle for their lives.
Raghavendra, stay on with me. Mr. Singh, we've been here before, we've reported on terror attacks before, but the Maoist threat in India seemed to have subsided in the last 2 years or so. Although there were sporadic incidents, we never had a big attack. Does this attack, the scale of this attack, surprise you at all?
Asking me?
Yes.
Well, the government has been claiming for quite some time that they are on top of the Maoist problem and that this problem would be solved within the next 5 years. So, I think this statement the Maoists just wanted to disprove this statement, and the incident has been perpetrated just to show that they are not only alive and kicking, but they have the capability to launch a deadly attack on the Central Armed Police Forces. This is what they have demonstrated, asserted their presence in a very strong way. And just to tell you, you see, according to Jain's Weekly, Maoists are considered the 4th most potent non-state armed actors in the world. So, they are a strong force to contend with, and any complacency on this front would be misplaced. Another thing which strikes me when looking at this incident is, well, 24 CRPF Jawans have been killed, very sad, very tragic. But how is it that not a single state police personnel were there and not one of them sustained any injuries, let alone suffer casualties? You see, it shows there is something wrong somewhere. You see, in a situation like this, the kind of situation that prevails in Chhattisgarh, what is essential is that the state police should be leading by the front, and they should be in the forefront of the battle. It is they who should be leading, and the state and the central forces should be playing a supporting role. On the contrary, what is happening is that the central forces are taking the lead, and the state forces are playing second fiddle to them. Now, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable, and this will not lead the state anywhere. The state police and the state government must realize that the state police has to take the bull by the horns, that they have to be in the forefront of the battle against Maoists.
Just to add to your point, I have some research here in front of me, and among the 5 big attacks that happened in the last 1 year, the only incidents where some policemen were injured was one in January 27th of 2016, where 5 policemen were injured in an attack in Jharkhand. So there's definitely, as you were pointing out, perhaps some mismatch between the way the state police operates, the way Central Reserve Police operates. But still, it's early. What's happened in Sukma, it's early to dissect that operation.
You need to recheck your figures, because from what I know, in March 11 also, this year only, a road opening party was attacked in Sukma, in which 12 CRPF Jawans lost their lives. But the difference in the nature of the incident then was that it was an IED explosion. Now, against IED, you really don't have much of defense. So 12 people got killed, just too bad. But in this particular incident, it appears it was not IED, but they were just fired upon, and they lost their lives due to bullets hitting them.
So it was an ambush, and they sort of walked into.
Ambush.
You know, when I come back, I'm going to ask you a question about the fact that there's been a lull. There's been a recent lull in this, and in the last 2 years or so, but now we are seeing a sudden spurt in this. What does that mean? I'll come back to you, but Raghavendra, you had some figures. You had some figures that spoke about, about the number of attacks that had happened last year, the nature, and these were details that were released by the Home Ministry. Talk with viewers through that.
Well, the numbers are very, very clear, and they speak for themselves. In 2013, the number of total incidents by left-wing extremists, it stood at 1,136. And this number has been steadily declining since 2013. In 2014, the numbers dipped to 1,091. In 2015, they went further down to 1,088. In 2016, they also, went further down and touched nearly 1,000. Also, the number of civilians killed and the number of security personnel killed during all these years, starting 2013, it has seen a steady decline, or the numbers have been more or less the same towards the lower side. But the number of left-wing extremists and Maoists that have been killed by the security forces, and the number of Maoists who have either been arrested or have surrendered in this corresponding period between 2013 and 2016, those numbers have shot up. So clearly, if one just goes by the figures, it would seem that Naxal activity, the number of strikes, the number of attacks on civilian targets and security forces, it saw a decline from 2013 onwards, and the number of Maoists who have been killed and who have been arrested, those numbers have shot up. This could have been one reason for the authorities and the government to feel that indeed, the government strategy was showing some results. Indeed, the Maoists, indeed the Naxalites were on the back foot and they were not as potent as they were once upon a time. We must remember we had some of the deadliest attacks in 2010, 2011, 2012. Those were the years when the Naxal insurgency was at its peak. And starting 2013, there has been a considerable decline if one just reads through these figures. Probably that is one of the reasons why the government and the security establishment of the country was starting to think that probably the problem has been contained to some degree. But today's strike has clearly demonstrated that the problem persists and it is still alive and kicking.
Well, Raghavendra, stay on with me. Mr. Prakash, is that what's happened? Is that what's happened, that there was a lull and somewhere India's intent, although the government did claim that we are still very active about this, that we are fighting this terror, we have all our strategies in place. Do you think it's right to say somewhere that perhaps there was some laxity in it, or would you agree that this is perhaps just the last flicker, that this is a movement that's on the recession? Attacks such as this can't be avoided; they would happen sometimes here and there. But the Maoist, the organization is in disarray. The number of people who have been killed have been done. So all that's been happening. Stay on with me before I take your answer. Some reactions are coming in. And we'll come back to you. Okay, we'll try and cue that reaction once again. That's important because those are the things that are happening on the ground. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Mr. Prakash. Go ahead.
No, I don't think, I won't agree with the assessment that this is the last flicker of a dying candle, so to say. It is just one of those incidents which keep on happening, and it would be to say that the movement has definitely suffered a setback. There is no doubt about it. But the movement has tremendous capacity, which it has demonstrated during the last 50 years. That this movement has been with us, tremendous capacity to revive itself, to resuscitate itself, and again gain ascendancy. Because what is happening, if you take a long-term point of view, the security forces clear an area. The area is cleared of Maoists. Now, once the area is cleared, the expectation is that the administration would move in, it would establish itself, entrench itself, development work would come, and there would be normal administration. But what actually is happening, that the security forces clear an area, and that is not, then the vacuum continues. The administration does not fill that up, and that vacuum is filled up again by the Maoists. So this is what is happening there. Any success of the security forces has to be backed up, supported, and followed up by administration, which should move into those areas, establish itself, establish the infrastructure, have schools, hospitals, network of roads, and all that. That is not happening, unfortunately.
Okay, Raghavendra, you've reported from several of these areas where such incidents had happened in your career, and as Mr. Singh is pointing out, that perhaps it isn't just about a strategy with the armed forces trying to push the Maoists back, but it also has to be backed by the administration. I have some figures that say in at least 23 of the left-wing extremist afflicted areas in Chhattisgarh, when the last 2 or 3 years the armed forces have had some success, there has been in fact very little development. The state administration hasn't stepped in, and there's that vacuum that allows such a movement to revive itself.
Well, that's a very valid point made by Mr. Singh, and I would totally agree with that, because any kind of armed action in an area to rid it from a Naxal kind of menace needs to be followed up by developmental activities. And while the government, both at the central and the state level, have been making those right noises, I would say that crores and crores of rupees have been sanctioned, be it to make hospitals, dispensaries, health centers, or to just set up telephone towers in Naxal affected areas or left-wing extremism affected areas. A lot of noise has been made about this. The government has been talking about how it plans and proposes to take development to the last mile in
but
these...
But maybe that's not happening. Maybe that's
yes,
not happening.
On the ground...
Stay on with me. I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but I have with me on the phone line P. Ramalu, DGP of Andhra Pradesh, who's well versed with this area and the Red Corridor, as it was called once upon a time. Mr. Ramalu, an attack has happened. 26 people are dead. 26 CRPF soldiers are martyred in this attack. Your take about the situation, sir?
No, the situation is I have been watching your TV, I agree with Mr. Prakash Singh. The absence of involvement of local police is glaringly visible. You know, in Andhra Pradesh, former Andhra Pradesh, now Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, we were successful because the local police was in the forefront, number one. Number two, the politicians, namely the ministers, MLAs, etc., were also involved in the sense to identify areas of development which needed special attention. Number three, we encouraged surrenders and rehabilitated surrendered Naxalites. This three-pronged strategy obviously paid rich dividends in our two states. Now here what I find is we are having recrudescence of this Naxalite activity periodically. Unless they strike massively as today, the central government is not taking note of it. Another point I would like to mention, supplement which has not gone unnoticed or unmentioned in your analysis by various experts is, please refer to Arundhati Roy's article some years ago when she visited this area. That is Dantewada, Malkangiri, that Dandakaranya region. There, the unscrupulous industrialists are exploiting the minerals, be it ferrous, that is the iron ore, or aluminium ore, and causing devastation. They are just rapaciously indulging in freebooting and robbing the country also in addition to displacing the Adivasis, tribals, affecting their daily, chores. So please, let this central government look at this aspect.
Okay, so Mr. Ramalu.
Time and again, but nobody bothers.
True. Mr. Ramalu, well, there are other long-term aspects that perhaps need to be addressed, and that's time for a different discussion. But if one were just to look at the operation today, and we all honor the sacrifice of these soldiers who were killed, but a point that comes ahead, and a point that even you have stressed upon, is that the activity of the local police, the presence of the local police was glaringly absent. Now, you've been a person who's conducted such operations. Is it unusual to not see local police being involved in such road clearing operations? Because what we are told is that this was the road clearing party. They were just clearing it for construction work that was going on. This was a road that was being built, and that is when they came under attack.
No, whatever it is, road clearing or road laying. No, just the point is the local police should have a grip over the whole operation. You can't just let this CRPF or even Cobra, whatever it name by name you call the specialist forces, which are the arms of the central government, to conduct operations on their own.
Okay.
Road clearing in an area affected by Naxalites should be done under the supervision of the local SP.
All right.
What is the SP doing?
Okay.
What is the DSG
all right. Many
doing?
thanks.
What
Many
is
thanks,
the
Mr.
local
Ramalu. I'm going to take some closing comments from Raghavendra as well as Mr. Prakash. Mr. Prakash, your final closing comments on this. We have had some long-term challenges going ahead, from here. But your top 5 priorities that you think that the government and the local police as well as CRPF must adhere to ensure that such incidents don't happen in the future?
Well, top 5, I would say firstly, we need to codify our policy of dealing with the Maoist problem. That has yet to be codified. Secondly, coordination between the state police and the central armed police forces, that has to be ensured. Thirdly, intelligence has to improve. Now, in this particular case, you say there are 300 men to attack.
No, those are eyewitness accounts.
No,
It could be exaggerated.
Even if there were 100, point is 100 people were not paradropped. They were moving in the area, they were located in the area. Why was there no intelligence about their presence?
Okay.
So, I mean, good intelligence, that's then strengthening the capacity of the state police forces. I mean, this is terribly lacking in Chhattisgarh. I mean, they have a sanction for 425 police stations, only 402 are in place. And out of these 402, would you believe it, 161 police stations have no vehicles. So, you have to build the capacity of the local police to be able to deal with this problem, to face this challenge. Instead, as I said, they are relying on the shoulders of the central forces.
And that won't do. That's not a long-term strategy. All right. Many thanks, Mr. Prakash. Raghavendra, a final question to you. The updates from the ground as they're coming in now. Various reports are indicating that the toll may have gone up to 30 people. What we also know at this stage, and I'm just reading of social media information that's coming is Raman Singh has called an emergency meeting. Any word from the administration about how they intend to tackle this problem?
Well, as of now, the state administration is in a huddle and they are holding emergency meetings to, just figure out what has happened exactly, ascertain the facts as they are, because till now a lot of sketchy information has been doing the rounds. So a lot of stock taking is happening as of now, and it will only be, in a few hours from now that whether the state government will start maybe thinking about a response to this or how to prevent such incidents from occurring in future.
Okay, many thanks, Raghavendra. Well, we're going to shift our focus from what's happened in Sukma, because we're going to keep on tracking that story. But there's another important news coming out today. Now, amid deteriorating law and order situation in Jammu and Kashmir, his Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti met the Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. Now, sources told WION that the Prime Minister has agreed to a call for a unified command meeting on Jammu and Kashmir on April the 25th, and the meet will be chaired by Home Minister Rajnath Singh himself. Sources have also revealed that the government is planning to strategize on a method to deal with stone pelters in the valley.
पिछले एक दो महीने से हालात ख़राब हो गए, उसके बारे में डिस्कशन हुआ, जो धीरे धीरे सुधर रहे थे पिछले साल के अनरेस्ट के बाद। उसमें क्या हुआ, किस तरह से हुआ, और उसमें जो इलेक्शन अनाउंस हुआ उसकी वजह से हालात पे क्या असर पड़ा, और जो हाल ही में इलेक्शन हुए उसमें जो कम परसेंटेज वोटर का रहा वो क्यों हुआ। तो ये सारी बातों पे डिस्कशन हुआ, और इसमें जो हमारा एजेंडा ऑफ अलायंस है पीडीपी और बीजेपी का, उसका भी डिस्कशन हुआ।
Okay, to take a perspective on this, I'm joined by Adil Boparai, who's a spokesperson for the Congress. Mr. Boparai, the reason I'm going to ask you this question is that the opposition has long been saying that had such protests for such a long time occurred in any state, there would be questions about his chief minister, there would be questions about his administration. This is Jammu and Kashmir. It's a state that's run and administered by the PDP and the BJP. Protests have now entered their third month. But still what we are seeing is that the government is now, even today, trying to strategize a way ahead. What's your take?
First and foremost, the situation in Kashmir is extremely, extremely critical. And I feel the state government and the central government have miserably failed in addressing the concerns of the Kashmiris. Now, as far as Kashmir is concerned, you need a multi-pronged approach in Kashmir. You need a security approach, you need a development approach, and simultaneously you also need an engagement approach. Now, what we are witnessing today is that the chasm between the Kashmiris and the rest is widening with every passing day. People in Kashmir feel a sense of alienation. And this government, the state and the centre, has done nothing to mitigate that alienation. As long as you don't lessen that sense of alienation, you can't really move forward. You need to have a dialogue with these people. Now, the point is the youth of Kashmir is also the youth of India. Kashmir is an integral part, the youth is an integral part of India. When we talk about our demographic dividend, this also includes Kashmiri youth.
So now perhaps we should engage. We should engage with them, is what you're saying.
How do you channelize?
Right.
How do you channelize?
Adil, stay on with me. I'm at this moment joined by Dr. Samir Kaul. He was a former PDP member, and he's been associated with the PDP for a while. Mr. Kaul, the question that many people today in other parts of India are looking at Kashmir, that they'd be asking, that they'd be aware it's a complicated situation, but there seems to be nothing new in the government's response to this problem. We have seen the government trying to step up security forces. We have seen the PDP, BJP government in the state promise to engage with the stakeholders. But this is a process that's been going on for 6 years, for almost now 6 months in that state. But nothing really seems to come forward from it. Do you have any hopes from this meeting between the PDP chief and the chief minister of the state, as well as the prime minister? Mr. Kaul. Okay. I believe we are having some audio issues with Mr. Kaul. Adil, You know, I'm going to ask you a different question. The question isn't just about engaging with the stakeholders there, because that's a process that the Congress government, that the UPA government had also initiated. That's a process that will take a certain number of years, a number of time, and we've tried it before, but without much success. But even as the opposition, we haven't really seen the political class in this country come forward and really engage with these people who are so dissatisfied in Kashmir, because many experts have gone on record to say that what we are seeing is not just a disillusionment with the administration, but with the entire political class of Kashmir.
You know, engagement is Kashmir. The engagement by the ruling dispensation is in Kashmir is a sine qua non. But at the same time, there is another angle to it. Now look what is happening in Uttar Pradesh, what is happening in Rajasthan. When you put up posters and banners in BJP-ruled states of Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh saying that Kashmiris should go back, just look at the optics of all this. This increases their anxiety. At a time when we need to allay their fears, BJP-ruled states and their affiliate organizations are doing all this. Now, I was just reading in the paper today, a research scholar from BITS Pilani, which is a premier institute, there were certain hate messages and hate slogans which were cast against him. He went back to Kashmir, and now his parents are fearful to send him back to Rajasthan.
That's a larger point you're making. There's perhaps wrong messaging. But what would the opposition do? What would you have the government do? I'll come back to you in a moment, Adil, with that question. Dr. Sameer Kaul, I'm told, is with us. Mr. Kaul, many thanks for joining us. The question really is, what would you be expecting from a meeting between the PDP chief and the Chief Minister of the state and the Prime Minister, considering that although problems, disturbances in Kashmir have been going on for a while, we haven't seen any novel approach in trying to engage with those who are disgruntled?
You know, there's nothing left for anyone's imagination. Both people have come out, the BJP has come out with a statement saying that they discussed so-and-so, and they have reposed confidence in the government and they'll continue. Mehbooba ji came out and she also issued a statement that lots of these issues, political issues, were discussed, low voter turnout or whatever she said. But what is a little bit saddening is the fact that one wanted to see some real progress on this issue now, because much water has flown down the river Jhelum. A lot of blood mixed with the water has flown. Blood of the security forces, our own people, blood of our own boys, and now even the student community, as you see, has got embroiled. What one wanted to see was the actual acceptance of the fact that this present turmoil, at least 75% of it is due to local unrest of people not having accepted the People's Democratic Party and the BJP alliance. Now, we do everything else to cover this basic fact up. It's all right if, you know, the Prime Minister, being a very strong Prime Minister of this country and a very responsible Prime Minister, I would have, somebody like me and the National Conference Party would have now accepted that enough is enough and we must get down to brass tacks. The moment we see the realization of this basic fact that people, it's not all Pakistan doing it. It's not National Conference doing it. It's the young people and average Kashmiris who are up and are angry and
there's a need,
alienated,
Dr. Kaul, to engage with them.
But do something substantial about it.
Completely out of
Extending time limits.
I'm completely out of time, but thank you. That's a very frank message. That's a very frank message, and perhaps that's the need of the hour. Some plain speaking, some truth talking. Many thanks, Sameer Kaul and Adil. With that, we're going to slip into a very short commercial break. When we return, more news and updates on the other side.